Hello everyone, today is 24th of February, now it's 15 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. First part of this update will be published on YouTube and Rumble. Second part shortly after on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and I hope if you're looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, better understanding of Russian or pro-Russian takes on some major developments in this world, I hope you will consider to support this project and become a Patreon or subscribe to my Patreon or Boosty pages. Links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That being said, let's go through some news now. And one more announcement, dear friends. Today at 6 o'clock I will start a live stream. Community chat, and I hope you'll find time to join the conversation from now on. These community chat live streams will be on Mondays, as I said in my yesterday's update. And the first news obviously is about elections in Germany. We have some preliminary results at this point. So Christian Democratic Union, SDU, and its sister party, the Christian Social Union, CSU, have won their snap elections in the German Bundestag, which is a parliament there, defeating Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats, SDP party. The anti-immigration Alternative for Germany, AfD party, was the second strongest performing contender and is projected to obtain more seats in the federal parliament than at any time in its history. Well, I don't know why media outlets are still using this, some framing this party, sometime anti-immigration party like now. Why RT is doing this? This is reported by RT, by the way. Yesterday they frame AfD as some ultra-right party. What the hell, man? It's just a party that has some conservative values. But anyways, according to preliminary results released by Germany's top electoral body on Monday, their SDU and their CSU together received 28.6% of the votes, which means that their SDU leader Friedrich Merz will likely become next Chancellor of Germany. The AfD, Alternative for Germany, has received 20.8% of the votes, while the SDP, party of Olaf Scholz, placed on the third place with their 16.4%, and the Greens gain 11.6%. Early elections was called last year after the collapse of the ruling traffic light coalition made up of their SPD, the Greens, and their pro-business Free Democratic Party. FDP leader Christian Lindner pulled his support due to disagreements over their budget. The AfD performed the strongest in the eastern part of the country, which is a former German Democratic Republic, by the way, which was a part of Soviet coalition, let's say, while Germany was divided. So the AfD performed the strongest in the eastern part of country, winning elections in Saxony-Anhalt, Thuringia, Brandenburg, and Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania. Despite becoming the second most popular political force across the country, it will be hard for AfD to enter a government coalition because other major parties consider its policies extremist and have ruled out any partnership. Well, in any case, significant success for Alternative for Germany, for sure. But when it comes to elections itself, it was predicted that Christian Democratic Union and the coalition of Christian Democratic Union and Christian Social Union, SDU, CSU, will win the elections, and it was well known that most likely Friedrich Merz will become next Chancellor of Germany. he already made a few statements after elections. For example, he stated that Germany must become independent from US. Okay, so Germany must gain a real independence from the US. Friedrich Merz, the projected winner of the Sunday's parliamentary elections, has stated, according to German media, Merz's Christian Democratic Union and its sister party, Christian Social Union, received 28.5%. Okay, speaking to reporters on Sunday night, Merz criticized US President Donald Trump's handling of Ukraine conflict. And then, quote here, their interventions from Washington were no less drastic, and ultimately outrageous than the intervention we saw from Moscow. What this animal is talking about? What intervention from Moscow? But this is a standard talking point now for these dirty prostitutes, right? That are formally leading Europe. And whenever they say anything, you know, even if they are talking about weather, they have to say, oh, but Russia. I mean, they always have to mention Russia, these freaking bitches, man. Unbelievable. Merz told reporters on Sunday night, according to news agency Deutsche Presseagentur, the Americans, at least those in the current government, are largely indifferent to the fate of Europe. Why should they care about Europe, by the way? They live oceans away, right? They should care about US, as far as I understand. The conservative politician went on to argue, and hardly this prostitute is a conservative. I mean, come on, man. He's just they're just as globalist puppet as Olaf Scholz was. That's it. Anyways, this dirty bitch went to argue that Germany must boost its defense and gradually achieve independence from the US. Then, quote her also, I would have never thought that I would have to say something like that on a TV show. Okay, you are too stupid to understand anything, Merz. Trump has demanded that America's allies in Europe pay a fair share in defense spending and contribute more to NATO. He also sidelined Ukraine and EU when he reversed the Biden administration's policy of isolating Russia and reopening direct talks with by reopening direct talks to Moscow. Okay, by the way, Merz is not yet chancellor and already is making some crazy statements, understandably so. I don't know what he's gonna do in regards to US. After all, I'm quite sure he has some ties with CIA for sure, and I think Langley has enough means to keep him checked so that he wouldn't bark too much, right? But you know, anyways, we have Vzгляд newspapers report that very same Merz stated that it is too early now to talk about deployment of German troops into Ukraine, but he will definitely most likely join Starmer, Prime Minister of UK, and Macron, President of France, in their escalatory policies towards Russia, and their attempts to prolong this proxy war against Russia. And most likely we will see this triangle, France, UK, Germany, acting as one against Russia. Maybe they will try to act against US also, but yet again, I don't think they are in a position to do so. What is also topic that worth attention is that Merz, before elections, stated on several occasions that he is in support of delivering of Taurus long-range missiles, German-made Taurus long-range missiles into Ukraine, which means that, well, most likely he will go ahead with deployment of German troops, because without German troops' direct involvement, Kyiv regime obviously cannot use these long-range Taurus missiles, as it is the case when in regards to British Storm Shadow cruise missiles or French Scalp EG missiles. I'm quite sure Moscow will monitor closely developments, and I think it is essential to make sure that these extremists and the terrorists that are leading Europe will fail in their attempts to further escalate war with Russia and to conduct longer and longer range strikes. And Taurus, by the way, has about 500-kilometer range, which is significantly more than, let's say, Storm Shadow or Scalp, almost double the distance, right? And it is a nuclear capable missile, which is also something to keep in mind, because as I said many times before, most likely Western ruling class, at least part of it that prioritizes EU, prioritizes prolongation of this proxy war against Russia, will try to transform terrorist Kiev regime into a nuclear armed terrorist regime. And if they start building atomic bombs there, well, Taurus long-range missiles can become handy to deliver atomic strikes deep into nuclear strikes, deep into Russian territory. And so, yes, it is dangerous developments. Obviously, and I think it is time for Moscow to take some strong steps before these dirty prostitutes, Macron, Starmer, this bitch in Germany, Merz, go ahead with next phase of escalation with Russia. These animals have to be stopped. That's it. And they are, by the way, planning to go ahead with next phase of escalation. We have a reporter from Kommersant newspaper, which is based on an article in Times, British propaganda outlets, that Macron and Starmer will try to persuade Trump to stop negotiations with Russia. Let's translate this information for a little more details. Sorry, dear friends, that I might use I'm using some strong language in regards to the so-called elites in Europe, but let's be real. I mean, they do not deserve any respect from anybody, and definitely not from Russian citizens, right? So fuck them all. That's it, man. That's all I can say. These are animals, by the way, rabid animals that should be neutralized, in my personal opinion. And no respect should be given to these dirty creatures. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer want to persuade US President Donald Trump not to continue bilateral talks with Russia on the Ukraine conflict. In exchange, they will offer European commitments to ensure Ukraine's future security, the Times reported, citing sources. Macron will arrive in Washington today, on February 24. Starmer will visit the United States on Thursday, February 27. According to publication, representatives of the two countries agreed to coordinate their approach in an attempt to influence the US president's plans to end the conflict in Ukraine. They are convinced that this is a critical moment for global security. What specific security guarantees can be provided to Kiev is not specified. The Wall Street Journal wrote that Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer will offer Trump to deploy some 30,000 troops on Ukrainian territory with the support of the United States, if they will receive support of United States. But the implementation of this plan is possible if Moscow and Kiev reach a ceasefire agreement. The Pentagon has repeatedly said that there will be no American troops in Ukraine. On February 18, representatives of Russia and the United States met in Riyadh. On February 23rd, the advisor of the US President, Mike Waltz, said that the US is reviewing its approach to cooperation with the Russian Federation and support for Ukraine. So yes, today Macron will visit Washington. In a couple of days' time, Starmer, and they will try. Obviously, they will try to derail Russia-US talks, and let's see what is going to happen. Let's see what is going to happen. What I am sure of is that if British, French, so-called elites will fail to derail these talks between Washington and Moscow through attempts of through political means, then they will go ahead with false flag operations, terrorist attacks, terrorist activity. They will do whatever they can to somehow derail rapprochement between US and Russia, and to keep US involved, further involved in this proxy war against Russia. They want US in, right, inside Europe, because they should understand perfectly well that without US, they all are paper tigers, and no one would care about anything that France, UK, Germany, or any other country in Europe has to say, man. Especially under leadership that they have right now, under leadership of globalists, puppets, right? Meanwhile, TASS news agency is reporting that new military aid package for Kyiv regime being cooked in Brussels, and this new package might be for amount of 20 billion euros. According to New York Times, this report earlier, foreign ministers of EU member states have agreed on this additional aid, although we have this report also, by the way, for example, that foreign minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, stated that Hungary will not support no allocation of funds for weapons and for the prolongation of this war. So which one is then? Did the EU foreign ministers, EU member states ambassadors agreed on allocation of these 20 billion euros, or they didn't? Because if Hungary's foreign minister is saying that Budapest will not support allocation of funds for weapons for Kyiv regime, then, well, I guess that means the New York Times was mistaken, or maybe intentionally was lying, that there is a principal agreement among EU member states to allocate this 20 billion euros. In any case, I just mentioned a minute ago that National Security Advisor of US President Mike Waltz stated that US is reformulating Russia policy. He was on Fox News, I believe. I shared at least one short video of his statements. But let's go through this news for a little more details here. So US is carrying out complete overhaul of its approach to Ukraine conflict and relations with Russia. White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has stated that Trump, who took office last month, has reversed the Biden administration's attempts to isolate Russia on the world stage, reopening direct negotiations suspended in 2022. Speaking to Fox News on Sunday, Waltz said that Trump's focus has been bringing multiple wars to end, including the conflict in Gaza and the hostilities between Russia and Ukraine. He reiterated that White House hopes to strike a partnership in the development of Ukraine's critical minerals in return for military and financial aid provided by Trump's predecessors, former President Joe Biden. Kyiv should sign a deal so the American people can see a return on this massive investment they made, Waltz said. We will reformulate how the United States deals with Russia. We saw this first step with President Trump talking to both Putin and Zelensky, he added. And well, by the way, Waltz went to say during that interview that this conflict in Ukraine was provoked and not necessarily by Russia, which was interesting to hear from a high-ranking official of US. Seems like Trump's team does understand that Russia was indeed provoked by NATO itself, by Western ruling class, collective West, and if they are ready to say it openly now, I guess they're at least during their inner circle talks. I guess they're at least considering that to end this proxy war and to restart relationships with Russia. Some serious concessions has to be made by US. Some eye-opening statements have to be made, eye-opening for a majority of the citizens of US, for example, that were zombified by propaganda, extreme anti-Russian, Russophobic propaganda during the Biden's administration. And I think very many people in US are about to be shocked when they will find out what was really happening, why and how. But yet again, European so-called elites are not stopping their attempts to derail talks between Washington and Moscow. As I already said, today Macron will go to Washington in a few days' time. Starmer, who knows who else from Europe plans to travel there, and they will try as much as they can to, with political or non-political, and by this I mean false flag operations, terrorist activity, and so on. But they will definitely try to keep US further involved in this proxy war against Russia, because they know without US's assistance, without US's involvement, they have no chance. They have no chance to even save the face, because obviously in no circumstances they're gonna be able to turn the tide, right? Anyways, Zelensky himself, by the way, yesterday had a press conference, sort of, and even though Waltz and many other high-ranking officials in US are saying that Ukraine should pay back for money that they receive from US, Zelensky stated that Ukraine won't pay any debt to US. So Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has said his country will not repay their assistance it has received from the US since the start of their conflict with Russia. He also suggested that US President Donald Trump's estimate that Kiev owns 350 billion is grossly exaggerated. In recent weeks, the US President has ramped up his demands that Kiev reimburse Washington for the aid provided since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in February 2022. Trump has argued that if the country is short on cash, it should sign over rights to its natural resources as a form of compensation. Zelensky, however, has refused, apparently deeming the terms too unfavorable. Speaking at the Ukraine Year 2025 forum in Kiev on Sunday, Zelensky stated that Ukraine received 100 billion in aid from the US, not 350 billion, not 500 billion, not 700, stressing that he was not ready to recognize even 100 billion as a debt. He claimed that he had reached an agreement with the former US President Joe Biden that the money was being provided as a grant and that no repayment has been expected. Zelensky stressed that if the Trump administration is not ready to give Ukraine a blank check, Kiev is prepared to enter into a new agreement and that it should be considered carefully in order for the parties to remain friends and the partners. And then quote here, I think I'm justified in my desire to dialogue with the US, the Ukrainian leader said, emphasizing that, and then quote, I do not sign something with 10 generations of Ukrainians would have to repay. According to Zelensky, the original deal on Ukraine's rare drafted by the Trump administration made no mention of security guarantees to Kiev and was therefore turned down. He claims that his negotiators were making good progress in talks with the Americans, who had supposedly dropped their initial 500 billion demand. Okay, by the way, so this is position of Zelensky. He's becoming like too insulting. His presence in Kiev is becoming too insulting for US. Really, every time he speaks about US, he's humiliating US leadership directly, indirectly, but that's what he does. And I mean, I don't know how long Washington or Langley gonna tolerate this, but this is bad optics, by the way. When puppet is barking at master and even tries to bite, this is just not a good optic. What the hell, Washington? Deal with this, just deal with it, man. This is just too bad, man. World is watching and laughing at this situation. When Washington says one thing and then Zelensky comes out and says 10 times more and insults US leadership, calling them stupid, basically, right? I don't know. This cannot be tolerated, by the way. And that's what it is, isn't it? He is calling Trump stupid because, according to Zelensky, Trump's estimates are grossly exaggerated. So what that means? That Trump has no idea what he's talking about. Is it too dumb or what? I don't know, man. I don't know IQs of Zelensky and Trump, but what I do know, this cannot be tolerated for long, and Washington and Langley have to come up with some plan. And during the very same this so-called forum in Kiev, Zelensky was asked about possibility of his resignation, and he said that well, he is ready to resign if that will be a requirement for a peace and if Ukraine will join NATO. That's two reasons why he might resign, according to him. I don't think it's his decision. People in Washington and London will somehow deal with this situation. But it is clear that Zelensky did receive some security guarantees from London, and that's why he is emboldened so much, so that almost on daily basis now he is insulting U.S. leadership and is humiliating U.S. Leadership. There is also even reports, by the way, that while finance minister of U.S. was visiting Ukraine to sign up for that deal on resources, mineral resources, Zelensky was shouting at U.S. high-ranking official. And this was reported by Financial Times, by the way. Western so-called media, isn't it? This is not... let's translate. This is not the Russian media is saying this in attempt to drive some gaps between Kiev and Washington. This is not the Chinese media, not the Indian media. This is Western so-called media, right? So Vladimir Zelensky yelled at the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent when they discussed a deal on resources during their recent visit to Kiev. The Financial Times newspaper reports. Earlier, the U.S. President Donald Trump said that the Kiev authorities rudely treated U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during his visit to Ukraine, refusing to sign their agreement. The American leader noted that Zelensky was asleep and was not available during their students' arrival. All through, the head of their Ministry of Finance made a long journey to Kiev by train to meet him. And also some interesting nuance here that this is a quote from that article. So for Door's office in Kiev, tensions have flowed over the future of Ukraine's most important strategic allies. The hours, their hoarse screams coming from there could not be confused with anything else. So I don't know who told I don't know who told this Western outlet about these details, but I guess they trust the source, according to which Zelensky was extremely angry, and that source of Financial Times actually witnessed this interaction between Zelensky and US high-ranking officials. So I don't know what is going on there, friends. I mean, Zelensky is shouting at high-ranking US representative almost on a daily basis, insulting US leadership. I don't know. This is not normal, and something has to be done. And this is a problem for US, really. This is becoming a big problem for US because its reputation is on the line here, right? If Zelensky can insult and humiliate US leadership, then what about others on continental Europe, let's say? What about then French president, British prime minister, German future chancellor, Merz or whatever his speaking name is? If Zelensky can, then others can do the same also, other puppets. So yes, something has to be done, by the way. This is not normal. And I'm quite sure some plans being worked out between Pentagon, CIA, and White House to remove Zelensky as fast as possible. And I think situation is so bad for US right now in regards to this topic that they will probably rush with their coup d'etat. They will most likely orchestrate coup d'etat in Ukraine. They will put some militaries in power, and then they will hold elections and put some individuals in the position of president that will never ever dare to bark at US. That's what is going to happen, because if US will go ahead with pressuring Zelensky to appoint elections, this might take just too long. And if Zelensky is allowed to act this crazy, he will decimate US reputation, by the way, right? In many ways. I don't think Washington can tolerate that. Anyways, dear friends, TASS News Agency is reporting that according to Deputy of the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Ryabkov, before end of this week, next round of talks between Russian and US delegation will take place. Earlier, there was reports that a meeting is planned in Riyadh for 25th of February, but Ryabkov, I reported yesterday that Ryabkov denied this information, but then he elaborated on the topic and said that before end of this week, a meeting most likely will take place, but he didn't say when exactly. Meeting will take place, most likely still in Riyadh. And also, by the way, Ryabkov stated that Russian position has not changed in regards to Ukrainian crisis. Ceasefire, these temporary measures for Russia, is completely unacceptable. Russia is all about complete resolution of the crisis, and therefore Moscow will not agree on any ceasefire whatsoever. And if opposite sides are serious about de-escalating and ending military phase of operations, then Russian position is well known. There are certain steps to be made by Kyiv regime, by its allies. Obviously, root causes also have to be addressed during the negotiations. And if Moscow feels that situation is developing in a serious way, then some de-escalation in terms of military operations can happen, but without addressing root causes, without Kiev regime is withdrawing its forces from all the new Russian regions and also from Kursk region, obviously there can be no meaningful talks and definitely not a ceasefire. Nothing new there. We know Moscow's position quite well, and I guess Washington has to keep that in mind. Anyways, dear friends, this is first part of today's update. I still have quite a lot of news to report about, and well, I will publish second part with this additional news on my Patreon and Boosty pages shortly. If before you will watch or listen to this video, that second part already most likely will be published on Patreon and Boosty. And if you are a member, you can member of our communities there, you can go straight away through link, by the way, and watch that update. If you are not, please consider to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty. That would be a great supporter, of course. If you like this video, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Share information about my videos, my channel, or share my videos. And if you want to support, you can do it. All the links, by the way, Patreon, Boosty, PayPal, cryptocurrency, everything is on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. And before I go, dear friends, let me once again notice that today at 6 o'clock local time, 6 o'clock Moscow time, I will start a community chat live stream, and I hope you will find time to join the conversation. Let's exchange opinions in real time about previous week, some major developments there, and about this week, this new week. It's going to be good fun, as it is always. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.